Hey guys, how's it going? How's it going? I'm just getting a set up here and letting people in as they come. There's a bit of a delay with letting people in. There's a lag on it. So we will just give it a few minutes to let people come in, and maybe you can run through a few tests with me. Wade, I'm going to pick on you here. Can you, first of all, can you hear my microphone okay? Any issues?
I hear it.
All right. All right. Now, one other thing I wanted to test was if I click a button here, let me just see, I'm going to share my screen. Oh, 1 second to let someone in. 2 people. If I click this button here, let's see. If I click this button here.
Oh, it tickled.
And and then I click this one. Does it come up full screen for you? Can you see it full screen? It does. All right. Perfect.
You know what the hell you're doing.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, I was worried about that. I was worried that it wouldn't come up full screen. All right. Perfect, Austin. Thank you for that feedback. All right. And again, everyone can hear me okay? No issues. I've had audio issues recently. Crystal clear? Yeah. Oh, good. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. I don't know what's going on with my, and maybe I use that when I record YouTube videos. I had a few people say to me that the YouTube videos sound really quiet and such. I use something called Screen Studio. I don't know if anyone's ever tried that before. It's pretty good for editing purposes, but it's, yeah, for some reason, the audio has been terrible recently. All right, let's see. So I expect I'll be back and forth, as you all probably know, letting people in. So if I take a break or something like that, I'm letting people into the room, as I have to approve everybody that comes in here. But today, this is going to be, obviously, this is the first of our 3-day workshop. And this is an in-depth workshop that we're going to be running through. It has taken us a long time to prepare. It's taken us a lot of work. So hopefully it really hits home with you. Hopefully you really resonate with what I'm saying here. And if there's any questions throughout, do remember that I cannot see, I will be on a different tab than you are. So I cannot see the chat. So if you have a question about something, if you want to pause me, whatever it is, just unmute your microphone, talk over me, it's perfectly fine, and I'll answer your question. That's the beauty of being live. Last year, well, I do these workshops once a year. Last year, I didn't do it live. I did it pre-recorded. This year, I thought, let's throw caution to the wind. Let's open up the room for error and do it live and see how we get on. So yeah, this will be all 3 days will be live. I am aware that it's Thanksgiving tomorrow in the US. So I'm setting up the recordings so that they're available for at least 24 hours. So the way it usually works is we'll do day 1, and then the recording will be available to watch until day 2 is released. So it's like a conveyor belt, right? Day 1 replaces day 2 replaces day 1, day 3 replaces day 2. But I might leave them up over the weekend for you, just because it is Thanksgiving, just because I know a lot of people will be spending time with family and such. And yeah, so we'll make adjustments, I guess, for that. So let's dive into this workshop. And as I said, I might be back and forth because I've got to let people in. But without further ado, this workshop is called the recurring revenue activation, right? This is something a bit different. This is all about actually making progress, putting things into position, getting them live, getting everything set up as fast as possible, but not just any old system, right? This is something that might be a little bit contrarian to what you have come across before. Just let someone in here. Might be contrarian to what you've seen before. Ideas, the thought processes might be different. Things are not really what you see in the online space. They're not the typical sort of make money type of deal. By this point, that's not really how we roll. So it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different. And some of the examples I give you, I hope they hit home. If you have questions, if you need clarification, just ask me. It's not a problem at all. So this is day one of the recurring revenue activation workshop. Let me just see. Okay, so I'm on my keyboard now. All right. So what we're going to do over the next 3 days will completely set you apart. The focus of this workshop centers around building your freedom. Freedom isn't financial, but control. 1 second. Let someone in. It's all about control. Creating your freedom is about how you spend your time and what takes your time. And I've actually just seen that Martin, I was hoping Martin would be here today because there's an example in here that's going to hit home with him beautifully. And you'll laugh, Martin, when you see the example, you'll laugh. But I'll let you wait for that one. So creating your freedom is about how you spend your time and what takes your time, the energy that you expend somewhere. Having complete control what you do, where you are, when you do something, and who/what you spend your time on is everything, right? It is so important. It changes your life when you have control, when you can decide not to do something, when you can go on vacation when you want to, when you can take it easy when you want to. If you want to take extra days off at Thanksgiving, you can do that as well. You've got the choice, the power, the capability to do so. So this is going to show you a lot about freedom through control, building machines, building systems, processes, basically creating systems that set us outside the economic impact, right? So for example, a really good one actually was today is the UK, or in the UK, it is basically the financial budget where they set out tax increases, etc. Right, and there'll be uproar about it. I haven't really looked at it too much, but there will be uproar because it's people feel like they can't escape, and you will all have noticed grocery prices skyrocketing, mortgages because of interest rates skyrocketing. The pressure just stacks up, and it feels like there's nothing you can do about it. This is all about stepping outside those systems, not in a way where we don't respect the system, but in a way where we move so quickly that it doesn't touch us. And you'll see what I'm talking about. We're also going to be diving into diversified revenue, which honestly is probably one of my favorite topics, diversification, and actually having a business where I remember when back in, what was it? That must be 5 years ago now, 2020, the shutdowns and whatnot, April 2020. I remember so many agencies who were in the restaurant or hospitality space getting completely wiped out because there was no diversification. I remember that none of the clients would weather the storm with a typical agency setup. We actually came through that and grew because of how we were structured. We were, just let someone in here, we were diversified. That's the difference. So what we're talking about is basically spreading the eggs, spreading the income streams, so that it allows you to become very, very stable in what you do, become secure in what you do, not have the same volatility as everybody else. And not necessarily looking at this year, looking at the next decade, right? How do you build that business for your family where you feel that security, right? How do you wake up on a Monday morning and not really have to think about going to work? Because that's the key, right? When you don't have that pressure to actually go to work, that's when everything shifts. That's when everything moves and changes. That's an incredible feeling. When you know you have income still coming in, no matter what, that you don't have to work for, that's a feeling that you'll always remember. It's a feeling that will never, ever leave you. So we're going to be diving into this. We're going to understand the frameworks for creating freedom through control, not just income, how we turn economic turmoil into your advantage, learning the legacy business model and applying it to your business, and setting yourself apart from agency owners who are all stuck in the old way of doing things. Now, income itself is a bridge to freedom. It's not freedom, it is a bridge to freedom. It unlocks the capability, unlocks your capability to achieve freedom. We don't show up every single day to make money. If you are focused purely on making money, as in you want that financial number up, then it makes it very, very difficult for you to show up every single day. There has to be that deeper reason, right? Income, money is just the vehicle. That's just the tool that we use to unlock different aspects, travel, security, spending time how you want to. Money unlocks that. It's the bridge. We don't obsess over income for the sake of money. We use it as the tool to unlock autonomy. It creates the options for us. It allows us to disappear to Italy for 2 months if you want to do that. Now, we show up every day. I show up every day myself personally. We show up. If you are in the WhatsApp channels within the Inner Circle Lab, you'll see the accountability groups. We show up every single day because every action gets us one step closer to freedom. And again, freedom being control, choice, being able to make the decisions that we want to make. Now, imagine in the depths of winter, feeling the need for some sunshine and just disappearing to the south of Italy for two months, right? Nobody can stop you doing. That's what I do/did. Might do it in March or so this year, but that's basically what we do. You may have seen that, right? We will go for 2 months just in the sunshine because we can do that. That's freedom. That's a choice, right? That's having the ability to take care of yourself how you want. I mean, how easy is it, right? You see ads all the time about healthcare. Do this, do that, eat properly. I mean, I saw a thing on TikTok the other day about, I'm probably gonna mess up the pronunciation and such, but nitrates in foods and things like that, and bacon and sausage, etc. And I thought, okay, well, the only option for most people to eat healthily and not be exposed to that stuff is to go to the butcher, right? To get their meats from the butcher where it isn't processed. But what does that do? Skyrockets the cost. So it's very, very easy to say that. You've got to take care of yourself. You've got to avoid all of these foods. But if you don't have the freedom to do so, if you don't have the money to do the tool, money, you don't have the money to do it, it's pointless. There's no, you're not going to be able to do it. So luxurious for people to say you should be doing that. But if you can't do it, you can't do it. There's no choice. This is about having the choice. That's what it's all about. It's the choice, being able to do these things. And probably most importantly, out of all of this, having the ability to increase your income instantly whenever you want to, right? When you want to. There is no point trying to cut costs. This is just personal opinion. There's no point trying to cut costs. There's no point going to grocery stores and trying to look at ways of, well, maybe I can get this week and I can save on something else. Honestly, what is the point of us actually doing that? So very little gain we get from trying to decrease costs. I want you to have a look at tax increases, right? I want you to have a look at grocery price increases, mortgage interest rates, where everything becomes more expensive. Everything is moving away from you. Even one of the cars that we have, was a Tesla, right? And in the UK, for a long time, you didn't pay road tax on those cars. Now you do, right? You pay road tax, and it's fine. But for a lot of people, that's an extra £200 per year that they no longer have. So as every little thing starts to move away from them, and that's where you've got to make that decision of not letting it impact you anymore, not letting it turn into, not letting it stress you in the sense that you wake up worried, but taking control over it, taking control over your income, having the ability to increase your income when you want to, how you want to do it, and then living completely unaffected by the news, inflation, the cost of living, all of that stuff. Imagine a world where you just don't care about that, right? You don't care about the cost of living. You don't care because you can just increase your income. That's the position we want to get you into. That's where we want you to go for you. So this whole model, this whole system is designed to give you that freedom. Now, the problem has been in the past, lots of systems give you that short-term fix where you can maybe sell something for $2,000 and then that would be it. So you feel good for a little bit of time. We've all been there, right? You feel good for a little bit of time, you feel excited, but it just gives you that little, that's it. Give me 1 second to let someone in here. So it just gives you that boost and that's it. There's no long-term component of it. There's no true control. That's why you might feel like you've been trying to do something for a long time, but you've never achieved what we call escape velocity. You've never achieved a momentum to move yourself out of this position where things do impact you. So the goal is to live in a world, sorry, I'm letting people in here. The goal is to live in a world where these things do not impact you. You do not care about the news. You do not care about any of that stuff. Why? Because you have control. You have one life, right? At least at this moment in time, until we can be frozen, you have one life. You have to take care of yourself. And I debate this all the time in my head. I don't understand, and someone can educate me here. I don't understand why people look so closely to politics, because the reality is it's never to serve you. You never have control over it. If they increase a living wage, that might sound great, but what does that do, right? That increases the tax, that increases sales tax that you pay, that increases employer taxes that they pay, which then increases the price of products, which completely negates the increase in the wage, right? Or in your salary. It makes it pointless. So to you, it might feel good. Well, I'm getting, or not to you, but because you're outside of that circle, but to most people, it seems like it feels good, feels great. But the reality is it doesn't actually get you any closer. It doesn't help you. It just looks like it does. So I'm in the camp of take full control over everything that we do. And like I was saying, we've all seen it. Turmoil everywhere. Just about every single country is experiencing it. People often blame taxes, and I put this one in for a specific reason because everybody thinks go to Dubai and the problem is solved. But the reality is I know people in Dubai who work from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. just to live in a tiny apartment trying to survive because it's such a dog-eat-dog world out there. They don't pay taxes in Dubai, but the reality of their lifestyle and their expense means that they effectively create their own hamster wheel. And I tell you this to show you the grass is not greener on the other side. It really isn't, right? So what do we have to do over the next 3 days is build a world that we control, where we can basically step out of caring. And by stepping out of caring, that's what we call escape velocity. And that's what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to achieve this term, escape velocity, where things happen, costs might rise, but you do not care because you can turn the dial to increase your income instantly. And when you have that capability, that's true power. That's the opportunity that you have. That's what we're doing here. So the last thing I'll say on this before we're going to flip this around a little bit is escape velocity becomes the shift, right? Things are still going to suck, right? When the price of groceries increases, it still annoys people. Mortgages, interest rates, etc. If they increase, it still annoys people. But when you move into a position where you don't care, that's escape velocity. The majority of the population are in what's called the hit zone, where all of these things hurt them. That's why the news circulates around these problems, because it hurts the mass population. But the way we escape that, and the last thing on this is that it's a lot of it's to do with time as well. The people in this zone are also working 9 to 5. They're spending all of their time at a desk. They are stuck in that cycle where they can't really increase their income. And if they do, it's not really substantial, right? So they can never achieve it. This is a vicious cycle. We have to get to these components over here. We have to build the machine. And when I say build the machine, I don't mean it's just about money. Yes, okay, we want to have control over our income, but we also have to have control over our time, right? There's no point creating jobs for ourselves. We've got to systemize our delivery so you're not stuck fulfilling every single day. We've got to diversify our income streams. We've got to diversify our inputs as well. We'll come on to that in a few minutes. We've got to be aware of the opportunity around us, and we've got to separate time from money. When we can do this, when we have that diversification, we've got it systemized, we're not spending all of our day doing it, that's when we can achieve escape velocity. And when we do so, you're immune to price hikes. You've got control over your income. You can leverage chaos as advantage, which we'll come on to. And you simply don't care about any of it. We create an environment where the world's turmoil doesn't impact us. We leverage it. And that might sound like a dream sentence, right? Imagine living in a world where you're completely separate to everything that's going on. And honestly, when you reach that, it's going to feel weird. It will feel weird. It will feel as if nobody can relate to you. Maybe family can't relate to you because these things are important to people. But to us, we're in a different bubble, and we protect that bubble with everything. And you're in that bubble. So it might sound like a dream scenario where nothing actually hurts you or nothing can touch you, but that's exactly what we're going to be doing here. Now, we can actually turn economic chaos into your advantage. So when most people start getting very, very defensive and scared, we actually leverage uncertainty. Recessions are historically when the greatest wealth transfers occur, right? We've all heard that sentence, millionaires are made in times of recession. The problem is that usually they're made through things like real estate, because property prices with foreclosures, etc., they tank, and then they can sweep up the real estate. As the market grows again, they make a lot of money. So a lot of wealth is made in that industry for that reason, but the barrier is always the capital, right? Because banks don't lend quite as favorably. You need the capital. What we're going to be doing here is removing the barriers. Now, you can create a world where you are the person that always has the answer. Imagine being able to respond to how the economy shifts, but actually take advantage of it. The opportunity of recession may have appeared inaccessible in the past, back in 2008. And even during, 2020, it wasn't quite a full one, but, there was a lot of markets crashing at that point. Maybe that one passed you by, but this one doesn't have to, because we're going to show you how you can treat it a little bit differently, where you don't need the capital. Do it. Now, over the next 3 days, we're going to open the door for you to take advantage of these economic times and use them to your advantage without needing that capital. And this is going to be your chance, and it will be your advantage. And the market for what we do is huge. It's global. We can do this worldwide, anywhere. It doesn't matter. And the reason I can say that is because the price points of the services and such are very flexible. So your customers, your clients, they're not paying $5,000. It doesn't price them out. We're diversifying, right? We're diversifying to give this massive market advantage. So we'll be removing barriers. We'll be automating systems and processes to show you how fast you really go. Oh, give me 1 second here. That sounds like we're good to go. And we'll be taking advantage of downturns. Now, so many people, agencies, freelancers, consultants, they're all stuck in the old way of thinking, every one of them. They try to just sell their service to whoever buys it, and they hope they get enough people, which they never ever do. I mean, how many times have you seen people out there who've had a few clients, but they can't break past that barrier, right? It's like they're always stuck. It's the 2K to 5K trap, right? They're always stuck in that cycle. They struggle to get clients interested, first of all. They can't get enough leads because they're trying to sell car insurance to people who don't have cars, right? They're selling their product to a market. They're not serving the market. They're not solving the problems. They are taking what they have, their ideas, their thoughts, how they work, their product, their service, and saying, you need this. This is why you need it. That's the wrong way to do it. That's the fastest approach to struggle. We have to reverse engineer that. We have to focus on what does the market need? Where are the problems that we can solve? And build our solution around that. What does that do? That creates demand. We enter this pool where the demand is already huge. And all of a sudden, there are enough customers for us. We don't struggle to sell our services anymore. We can achieve enough pace, enough speed to actually build the momentum. So they don't realize what they're doing. They're basically building themselves a job as well. And nobody ever tells them that they're doing this because it's not shiny. There becomes a point where, I'm going to say back in the old days, right? But I'm referring to 2018. And everybody would try to run a service, maybe paid advertising, right? Google Ads, or maybe SEO, and they would outsource the work. That's what they did. They outsourced the work. And if they didn't outsource the work, well, if they outsourced it, they would experience the downsides of doing so, lackluster talent, results that didn't match, frustrated clients. Then they decide, okay, I'm going to take this over myself. So they take it over themselves to get better work, better results, because they care more, of course, because it's their client, and they get better results. So then they think, okay, when I get to 10K per month, I'm going to hire the best talent, and then I'm going to scale further. But they can never reach that point because the work they're doing is too intense. They're spending their whole day working, dealing with those clients up at 2 a.m., responding to text messages or WhatsApps or whatever. They've never got enough time for themselves to work on the things that actually help them progress and move forwards. So they can never reach that 10K mark. They end up spinning in a cycle, and they've just created a job for themselves. But again, nobody will ever tell them that they've done this because they're technically making money, right? But in order to reach that next level, a shift has to happen. And there are two ways that you can make that shift. The first way is by taking no money, no profit, nothing, reinvesting everything until you get to the point where you have enough profit built in with a high enough quality team that allows you to take some money home, finally. But that's not a very attractive way of doing that, right? That's a terrible way because you still have to live. That's the reality. You still have to live. There's no way of operating if you still have to live. The other way of doing this is if you automate the processes. If we can automate those processes where you don't need to spend your time doing the work, all of a sudden we can focus on the right activities and generate enough speed for you to actually ascend into the next level, to get to the 10K, 20, 30, 50,000 a month mark. But we can do that from day one. We can set your business up from day one the right way. So we're going to be building a business that stands the test of time, a business that meets the market where it is with what they need exactly when they need it. So the right place at the right time. We're going to be building a business that doesn't need you. You do not have to be working in that business. But not in the old way, where you outsource everything and they let you down. We're not going to do it that way because that's going to burn you out extremely quickly and it's going to be very expensive. Your profit margin is going to be much, much lower. We're going to do it maximizing the profit margins. We're going to build a business that doesn't need you through automations and systems. We're going to be taking the online world into the real world. Now, what I mean by that is if you walk out your door and you go into a city center, you go into a village or a town or whatever, you don't see very many online businesses, right? You don't see them there, but they still make money. They've been around for years and years and years. They're still successful in their own right. Now, whether or not they can improve, different question, different story altogether. But the reality is, all the factories that you see, all the car dealerships that you see, all these businesses, restaurants, bars, nightclubs, etc., they're still successful. But we never consider that. We're living in the online world where we just think it's almost like it's the only business that exists. But yet we've got hundreds of years of lessons that we can learn and improve upon with this new technology. So that's what I mean when I say we can take the new world into the old world and learn from it. We can build something pretty special, something really, really special. Now, some of the biggest opportunities out there are simply found by doing what the most successful people did, but using new technology to do it faster, stronger, and better. That's the secret, right? There are so many, every guru you see out there, every single one of them, they focus on the online. That's it. There's so much we can learn, hundreds and hundreds of years of success in much more difficult climates. Why does nobody ever learn from them? That got my mind thinking. I started to think. I thought, okay, wait a second. Maybe there's something here. Now, I grew up in a village that was home to something called the Tunnocks factory. And this is where Martin, you'll know this very, very well. Martin is also from Scotland originally. They sold cakes, biscuits, sweets everywhere. I literally grew up probably about 300 yards or so from this massive factory. That's actually an image of it right there. This massive factory. And in order to leave our home, when I was going to school, etc., I had to walk past this or we had to drive past this. Either way, we had to go past this building every single day. Now, one day, when I was about 17 or 18, round about there, just a kid, I wrote a letter to the owner. His name was Mr. Boyd Tunnock, right? And he was the grandson of the founder. And I say grandson, but he was about 85 when I met him. So, it's not, this is a company that's been around for 135 years. And I wrote him a letter. And to my surprise, he invited me into his office. And you can't quite see it, but you see the red door on the left-hand side there? Just to the left of that, there's like a little gap. And it's basically, if you think about large doors that get you into a big building, like a reception type of area, he would park his silver Rolls Royce out there every single day. And you would go to the grocery store and you would see him wandering around, just picking up his groceries like everybody else and getting back into his Rolls Royce. And his Rolls Royce, it was quite funny. The Rolls Royce would sit just to the left of that image. And it still does. If you go there today, it's still there. And because he still works. And right at the front of this building, that's where all the staff from the factory, they would take their smoke breaks, right? That's where they would, right beside the Rolls Royce. It was kind of ironic. But I walked in. When he said I could come in for a meeting, I walked in and I spoke to the reception. And then he came out of his office. And I sat down with him. And I spoke to him for about an hour, actually. And he spoke to me. He asked, typical questions, what I wanted to do, what I was doing, etc. And I was going to university at this point for economics. So, just that sort of stuff. International business and economics is what I did. And we spoke. And then he sent me away with a giant box of biscuits for my family. It's a huge, big thing. Nice, really nice guy. But he was in his office. His products sold as far as Saudi Arabia. And he had time to meet with me, a kid with a dream, right? He spent time, an hour of his day with me. He was not in the factory. He wasn't doing the work, yet his business was worth in excess of $200 million. And that was from this tiny, tiny little village. And I thought, all of these systems and processes, not one single person in the online space ever discusses that. Yet there's a $200 million business sitting right there. Now, the business has been around for 135 years. and it was created less than 300 yards from my door. And when I look back on this, it got me thinking, what if we built an agency, an online business, the same way a legacy business like this that was extremely valuable is built? What if we did the same thing, right? It clearly worked there. What if we learned the lessons instead of trying to do it the fast, easy, quick money, make $1 million tomorrow online path? What if we took the ideas, because the ideas are always solid, right? It makes sense. All of the online stuff, it makes complete sense. But what if we took those good ideas, the technology, the AI systems, the processes, what if we took that, but we built it like the businesses that have lasted 135 years? What if we combined the two of them together? What if we stepped outside of the online world for just a moment and took what has worked for 135 years and used it to our advantage? If we operated the same way these gigantic empires are built, would we accelerate? Would we have an easier time of running? Because we can do things faster and better than they could. We can do it far more profitably. We don't need warehouses or factories, right? We don't need any of that stuff. That's all advantage. We don't have to rent warehouses either. We don't have to have shipping companies involved. We don't have upfront expense. And it made me realize that where everybody was going wrong was simply they were trying to apply the online business world and have gone too far down this easy, effortless path. Whereas if we just put a little bit of work in up front, imagine the difference that would make. Imagine the power that would have. Now, the good news is I've done the work for you. You don't have to do that work. But what if we took that work and built it like these legacy businesses? Would it make the difference? And the answer was yes, because nobody else ever does this. These businesses operate like a machine. Their systems are running all day. Their sales are happening all day. They aren't building things or doing the work themselves. You know, he was not in the factory working, that guy. He was talking to me. He was giving me biscuits. So they're not doing the work themselves. And in this moment, that's when it clicked for me. This is exactly how we do it. Because think about it. I don't know how many staff members he has. I'd imagine it's 1,000 or so, the amount of people you see night shift, works 24/7, night shift, etc. All the expense, all the sick days, all that stuff, all the HR problems. He's a HR manager, which is probably like $100,000 per year. All of these expenses, we don't have any of that. We have none of it. All the automated systems that are built, they take care of it all for us. They are our workers. But nobody ever views it like that, right? Nobody ever sees it that way. That's when it clicked. This is how we take the agency model. This is how we separate ourselves. This is how we run like a machine and have a business that still feeds our family 10 years from now, rather than becoming stuck on the struggle bus like most people do. There'll be no reason not to do this, because like I said, I've done the hard work for you. I've removed all the barriers for you here. The difference, and we're going to talk about moats, as in, which is basically if you think about a castle and the castle is your business, a moat keeps competitors out, right? The bigger your moat is, the further the competitors are away. Your moat is your unique identifier. It's the thing that you do differently that makes the difference. The skill, the experience, the effort. I'm basically giving you this moat. It's more like a lagoon, to be honest with you, and we're going to come on to that in a few minutes, but it really is, because what I'm talking about here, I'm talking about these big businesses, right? These huge infrastructures, the ones that last decades, 135 years, like that level. There's systems behind that. If you don't want to have 1,000 staff members, you have to have the equivalent system in place. That's the hard work. Instead of going down the super easy, don't do anything, just sell garbage to someone path, where you could, there's plenty of those opportunities out there. You could go down that path. very difficult to make it a long-term business. Or with a little bit of effort, you can go down the legacy business path. But the beautiful part is we've taken the effort away. Now, everything comes down to choice. If you are idle, you let the world hit you. And it hurts. It really, really hurts when it hits you. And this is where you experience those increases in the living costs. This is where you feel the purse strings becoming a bit tighter and having to cut your expenses, right? And there's, as I said, there's only so much that we can actually do here when it comes to cutting expenses. You can't. You still have to eat something, right? We can't. You can go to ramen, but you can't go much lower than ramen noodles. So once you get to that point, and if you're still struggling at that point, we've got a bit of a problem. So instead of going down that path, right? Not obviously, that's an exaggeration, but instead of going down the path where we're trying to cut things, let's flip that. Let's look at, okay, let's make more money. A select group of people in society who have had their eyes opened will see exactly where the opportunity lies to take full advantage of it. They'll understand what happens during these periods of uncertainty. They'll understand what people need and when they need it. And I'm going to open your eyes to this. Today, tomorrow, Friday, I'm going to open your eyes. I'm going to remove all the barriers. And then, after we do that, it's going to become a choice to whether you sit idle and let it hit you, or you take advantage of it. Because you'll see the opportunity, you'll see where we need to go. You already know what we're building for is not a quick hit, right? What we're building for is a legacy business that feeds you for years. It gives you the ability to do what you want, control, freedom, travel, whatever you want to do, having complete control over your time. And I've said it many, many times. By simply being here on this workshop, by simply being within the inner circles, you have a big advantage. You're already ahead of the game. And how can I say this so confidently? Because you asked the question. You wondered, you pondered, is it actually possible, right? You thought the reason you're here, the reason that people around you are not here is because I've never asked the question. They've thought, is it possible? You know, are there other ways? Yeah, there's too much risk. I'm too afraid. I can't be bothered. I don't have the skill. I couldn't do something like that. You didn't. You decided to show up. You decided to do something. You decided to believe in yourself. And I can tell you firsthand, if I can do it, you can do it too. And why do I say that? Because I'm no different. You've got far more advantages actually than I had. I basically had to figure everything out from square one. I did not. I come from a tiny village. I do not come with this massive network of people that helped me at nothing. If I can do it, you can do it too. And I'm giving you the shortcut to do all of it. The processes that we talk about, the opportunity, the angles, the vision, it never crosses the mind of an average person. They have no idea this even exists. And that right there is your advantage. They don't know it exists, but you do. So when you see all the quote unquote normal people out there, know that you're ahead. You might feel different to them. You might wonder, question certain things, but that's because you're ahead. When you see the other agency owners out there selling nonsense to business, I've seen it so many times. I won't name names, but I've seen all these different gimmicky kind of softwares and stuff. And you've probably seen them too, and you probably laugh when you think of all the stuff that you've seen. All the gimmicky softwares, right? All of it. They just try and sell it. Like they just try and sell these softwares. That's not long term. That's not going to get them anywhere. That might pay them for a month or two before they're, they face the reality of things. And then they're back to square one again. This is the time. This is when it's different. This is where you build for the long term. This is where you build for that lifestyle, right? For being able to provide for your family for the next 10 years. I mean, imagine in 10 years, you're still getting paid from what you're doing now. It's a multiplier. So whenever you see people flashing huge numbers, like $200,000 per month, this is short-lived. They always disappear. And I want you to think back. If you have seen people who are posting about 200K per month, 800,000 per month, they're probably not posting anymore. Go look. They're probably not posting anymore because these things are short-lived. They're short-term, right? They don't last. You have to know that you're different. You build legacy, you build strength, you build a machine. And this is the next generation of agency owner. Now, how do we create that legacy? Well, what we're looking at here is, of course, diversification and something we call the digital landlord concept. Now, this is not something that we focus on, but it's a good visual for you, right? I'm using this as a visual, as to help you understand this is not what we call it. This is not what we do. This is simply for you to get a good understanding based on something that most people are familiar with, right? Landlords, property, things like that. So it's just an example. Now, the secret behind all of this is creating a diversified machine that feeds you profit from different angles. It solves various painful problems for a business, and they have to stick with you. They have to keep paying you. I think about it like a real estate portfolio without the big upfront capital. Right? We don't need any of that. You can start with literally zero. In my eyes, and I guess I've got probably a little bit of a different opinion on real estate than most people, but in my eyes, if I put money into my diversified model, not only is the cash flow cycle immediate, so I get paid immediately, as in it pays me from day one, but it also creates a sellable asset in the future, which has asset value. When I look at real estate, the biggest sticking point I have is, okay, you can buy a property, it can appreciate over the course of 4, 5, 10 years, and it can appreciate quite handsomely. You can get rental payments if you rent it out as well. Ideally, they're a little bit higher than the mortgage payment, but the amount of capital that can take as an investment property, right? That could be maybe like 50,000, 70,000. If I know if I put money into these models, it pays me 10x per year, per year, every year, right? And the asset value grows. Think about the speed of that. How fast, if I put that 70,000 into the business over the course of 12 months, it pays me 700,000. And I don't lose the asset value. That strengthens the asset value. I can sell it for 3 times the revenue. So when I think about it, I think, well, there's no more valuable an investment for me than having a system and just spinning the wheel even faster, using that capital to my advantage. So I wanted to give you a bit of a different perspective, just on how I see things personally, because I think investing in myself in that sense, investing in what I know I can deliver, will spin that wheel a lot faster. It will pay me today, and I'll have a resellable asset in the future. It's like the perfect model. And I don't get paid a profit of $300 per month, right, from a property that I paid $200K for, whatever, $300K more like. I get much higher payments, $70,000 a month, for example. Like, think about the difference of that, right? Think about the difference. So these are the types of models that we're looking for. Something as robust as real estate, something as strong with the asset value that grows over time, but also something that pays me from day one. If I build this diversified business, it acts like a multiplier. I don't have to wait years to start getting cash flow. I get paid month 1, then all of the following months too. And while that happens, my asset value increases. The reason I build like this is because it creates wealth. That's the difference. In the future, I then have a diversified asset that keeps paying me monthly. I don't actually have to do anything, because remember, automated systems, automations, processes, It's like the factory. It's like the machine. It just keeps going. It keeps spinning all the time. So I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do the heavy lifting. I don't have to do the work. The systems are set up and it just keeps paying. So it becomes, and here's where we link in the digital landlord, it's like becoming a digital landlord to some extent. We own the assets, the systems, automations, processes, and businesses, local businesses, rent them from you, right? Think about real estate. Think about commercial equipment rental. I know people who have, like, they move equipment, they move cranes and things like that, right? They'll buy a truck for 600,000, and then companies just pay them to move the crane from A to B, B to C, C to D, whatever, and so on. They're renting the capability of moving that crane or different bits of equipment and stuff, right? They own the asset because you need that equipment to do so. Think about offshore engineering companies, right? I've got very specific knowledge because my brother's in this industry. It's not very specific knowledge of this. But to give you some context, a lot of these companies buy these huge ships, right? These huge ships that have very specific capabilities. Then large companies, even like BP will rent the ship from them or hire them with the ship to do a certain job, and they get paid 60 million for doing that. I'm not even making that number up. That's actually pretty precise. They rent it from them. They've got the capability, they've got the asset, they've got the system, and these other companies rent it from them. This is our system. This is our asset. The systems and the automations and processes, those are our assets, and we rent them to other businesses 12 months per year and get paid. And you can rent them to 100 businesses. You can rent to 1,000 businesses. Because it's built on automation, it doesn't impact you. You don't have any true workload. And the reason I can say that is because of the work done behind the scenes. And I've mentioned to a lot of people this week the amount of work we've put in behind the scenes to build this. It's huge. It is a monster, what we have. And we can rent it out to all these businesses, right? And you can do the same. That's the secret. They own the assets, the property, the equipment, the ships. The customers rent the use of those assets. The business doesn't lose the assets. They keep them. So when we connect these old school ways, it's like an old school way of running a business, but we add the AI space into it, the world opens up. Those businesses, these big engineering companies, right? The big real estate companies, clearly they work, they do something right. What if we take that model and bring AI and automation into it? What if we bring the agency model and run it like these incredibly successful companies with our own spin? Would that take us out of that digital cycle where it's quick hit, quick wins, no long-term gain? I think it would. This is your opportunity. And I want you to start thinking along these lines. How do we build that asset that still pays us in 10 years? Will it develop as we go over the course of 10 years? Of course it will. Our systems have developed massively in the last 6 years. You progress with time, but you don't start over again. That's the beauty of it. You don't have to worry about markets that progress. You don't have to worry about AI because your business is built to enable it. Your business is built around these changes. We expect and anticipate these changes, which means as the world moves, you get better, faster, stronger, instead of having to reinvent the wheel every single time. It advances your business instead of restricts it. The foundation and the framework never actually change. Now, here's why most agencies never actually get here. It all sounds great, it all sounds exciting, taking these massive legacy style businesses and bringing the new into the old. But why doesn't everybody do it? Well, firstly, with the rise of TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, the world is short-term dopamine addicted. They cannot see the wood or the trees. They just want quick hits all the time. Platforms encourage it. They want that quick win. That's why things like ClickBank exist. They're full of offers that are just like the digital money machine. I made that up. I don't know if that exists or not, but the digital money machine, right? These types of things, they're just quick hits. They don't actually progress you. And second, if you try to set up a system of that level, it takes you years, unless, of course, you're here with us. And when I say years, I mean it, because it took us years. We talk about building moats around your business where others can't ever touch it. Nobody can compete with you. But this is your moat, which is more like a lagoon, right? The level and the depth of the automations and systems that you can deliver, that's the difference. That's why someone pays you. That's why nobody can compete with you, because you're taking advantage, you're leveraging years of expertise and years of work. You're leveraging it, you're using it. That's the difference. Nobody can touch it. This is your machine and this is your factory, right? When we look at those big factories with all the staff, all these automations, all of these systems that we're going to be diving into, that's your factory. That's what is behind the scenes. That's what exists underneath it. You just open the doors. You just have the factory there. You just open the doors and start letting customers come in. Most agency owners out there, they focus on the short term. They're trying to make a quick sale. They get the clients. They've got no idea how to deliver. This creates a never-ending cycle where you can't stack income because it always churns, right? They always cancel. Then they feel like there's too much to learn from sales, lead generation, client fulfillment, which is unique for every niche. You know, if you're going to deliver for clients in different niches, you have to adjust the fulfillment, because a gym is going to be completely different to a chiropractor, right? So they all want to take the easy way out. It creates overwhelm. All of this creates overwhelm, and they do nothing. So then this is what they do. And maybe you can see things you've done in the past to get to this point, but you're not there anymore. Then they try to get a software that does everything for them, right? Taking the easy way out without having to build systems. Technically, it works at first, but then the results start coming in, the true results, not just the, did it do what it said I was going to do, but actually the outcome. Does it achieve the outcome? Because the outcome is why our client will stay with you, right? Nothing actually happened. They didn't get to the outcome. They just set the system up. Then, if they finally do figure out client delivery by spending hours and hours and hours setting that all up, they struggle with lead generation. They do a little bit of lead generation. They take some calls. They close a client. They get paid. Then they turn lead generation off to work with the client. Then eventually, their system isn't strong enough because they didn't spend enough time doing it. Their client leaves and they're back to square one, but this time without any leads, because they stopped that. Remember? They stopped the lead gen to work on the client. And it becomes this vicious cycle where they'll get a couple of clients, spend all their time working on it, lose the client, have to set up lead generation again. That becomes feast or famine rather, over and over and over again.
Stop telling my story.
I'm sorry if this hurts. I should have read a disclaimer beforehand. So, systems are the true divider, right? That's the difference between $2,000 per month and $50,000 per month. Systems. It's the difference between those who become stuck at 0, 2K, 5K per month, and those who surpass 50. It's all about the systems at hand. They need a system for consistent client delivery. They need, which is over here, they need a system that generates interested leads all day long, all year long, that does not stop. They need a system for showcasing results to the client, the progress they're making. And they need a system that retains clients as well. And they need an offer structure that makes sense and is actually in demand. Remember what I said at the start. It's not about trying to create your own demand. It's about going where the demand already is, finding markets that solve problems. I showed you the example of the Tunnux factory, right? They did not invent biscuits or sweets and cakes and stuff. People already wanted that. They just made unique ones that were a bit nicer. That's all they did. The offshore engineering companies did not invent how they repair a certain pipeline. The need came up, they addressed the need. That's the difference in the offer structure. Instead of us having to go create this demand, we just go where it already is, go for what people already need. Over the last few months, I've given examples of e-commerce and shipping companies. E-commerce companies, if they do about, say, 4 million a year, 3 to 4 million per year, which is pretty common in e-commerce, they will spend about 15 to 20,000 per month on pieces of paper for shipping. You know, like the FedEx paper, when you're shipping something, you stick it to the box. They will spend 15 to 20,000 on that, but they have to. These shipping companies are in that industry, or the shipping label companies, they're called. They're in that industry because the e-commerce company cannot ship a package with FedEx, UPS, USPS, Royal Mail, whatever. They cannot ship a package without this particular label for customs and such. They cannot do it. Or not just customs, but telling it where to go. It cannot be done. Therefore, the e-commerce companies already need the service of shipping labels. You see how that they didn't create shipping labels. They went to the market where shipping labels are required in everyday business. That's what we want to do. We want to create the shipping labels of marketing. If we can do that, we can slide into industries, niches, markets, services where they already need us. It's already something they buy. So we've got consistency. We don't have to convince them to buy anything. We just make it better. If they have all this in place, the agency structure, if they have these components, all of them here, they grow rapidly. It's not about case studies. It's not about testimonials. It's not about reviews. Do they help? Of course. Of course they help a little bit, right? They help a little bit. But they don't hold you back. So many people got hung up in this aspect of I need reviews, testimonials. No, you don't. Every 1 in 10 prospects won't work with you because you don't have case studies. But that leaves you with 9. Only one of them is going to make a fuss. That's not your client anyway, because honestly, I can tell you, if they do ask for that, it's a bit of a red flag, in all honesty, because they're going to be much harder work. Not all the time, of course, but I've noticed a pattern in it. And I don't even offer them. I've mentioned before why I do not give, even though we've got hundreds. There's a reason I do not give references. And it's because when you run ad campaigns, I've had situations where I've had the same person being reached out to like 15 times per day from different people who want reference, things like that. Of course, they would give a good reference, but that gets annoying. Of course it does. I would be annoyed if that happened to me for someone that someone that I'd paid. Of course, I would be annoyed too. So I don't even do it. So you think, well, you've got all these testimonials and reviews. I don't even use them. It's not an advantage. 1 out of 10 people, sure. They'll be a stickler, but I don't care. So it's not something that we should hold you back. The opportunity is there. You just need that system that you can get behind. Now, why your offer is risk-free in a growth downturn. So this is going to start going into now the types of offers that we can run, what we can be doing. We spoke earlier about the economy shift, recessions, downturns, increasing costs. And I've said it many, many times. Economic downturn leads to 2 outcomes for our business. They can only cut their costs so much. There is a floor, right? When prices increase, which they are obviously always doing, the floor is even higher. When the market is going one way where their supplier prices are increasing and they're thinking they've got to decrease prices, that's no one's going to win there, right? That's like friction. They can't move past that. So the reality is they can't really cut their costs. That's not a way. So they've got two choices. They either shut down or they make more money. That's the two options, right? They can't cut costs. So they either give up or they make more money. Now, here's the key. And this is very, very important. They want to make more money, but they don't want to have to take on risk to get there, especially not right now. And knowing this will be your advantage. This means that running ads, SEO, services like that, Google Ads, etc., can become quite scary for them because new leads cost so much. There's a risk of, does it work? Does it not work? The costs can get out of hand. So if you have the solution to make them more money from what they already have, which doesn't incur much expense at all except your small fee, it lets them make more money without the risk. And all of a sudden, you have the answer to their problems to achieve the outcome they want without having to run into the objections that they face. So you can give them what they want. It's like, let's say they want to eat chocolate without gaining any weight. All of a sudden, you have that magic chocolate bar, right? Where they can eat it all day long, get what they want without ever having to gain weight. That's what you have. You've got the answer, the perfect answer for them. But this only happens because you're in the right place at the right time with the right offer under the right circumstances. This is the position we're putting you into. Having that balance, having that formula is what's going to give you ridiculous growth. All of a sudden, as I said, all of a sudden you've got the answer. They can achieve the outcome without having to do the things they don't want to do. You have the direct answer to their problems. This puts you in a position of demand. And not only that, based on the numbers, your fee looks absolutely tiny compared to the outcomes that we can achieve. And I'm talking literally 5%. Right, not even that. I think it's 5%. 5% is your fee of the outcome that we can generate. That's ridiculous, right? So they have 95% profit on your service. Of course, they're going to say yes. And of course, you're going to make a lot of money because it's stacked in your favor, and you'll see why. But you see, these outcomes are not achieved by luck. They're achieved by systems. Just like the factory, juicing the same biscuit or chocolate every single time. But here's the thing. Every niche is different. They all have the same problem. They all want to make more money without risk. But the machine needs to adjust to that particular niche, right? For example, the system that works for a solar company will not work for a gym. It wouldn't make any sense, right? Wouldn't work. But imagine a world where you had a system that changed for every niche without you having to change it. Imagine that. You can work in all these different niches, having a tremendous market size, but you don't have to do anything different. Imagine you could attack dozens of niches, dozens of them, multiple dozens, at the one time, automatically, with the exact solution for their market. Not just the market, their market, the one that they have, that they operate in. You're not trying to sell the same process to different markets. You're providing the solution that specific markets need in their language, in their world. This opens your market up to a ridiculous level. The floodgates literally open. You can work anywhere. Your number of prospects skyrockets. Yet all you have to do is switch it on. Even with the lead generation, you could point that kind of system at various niches: gyms, chiropractors, plumbers, electricians, solar, real estate agents, restaurants, etc., etc. You can point it at all these different niches and have them running all day long without stop. 365 days a year, maybe 364, because I probably wouldn't run it on Christmas Day. That's the only day I wouldn't run it. Thanksgiving, go at it. Christmas Day, I would, because you don't get responses, basically, is the reality. But the point is, 364 days a year, you can run this system automatically, always, always, always hunting for you. You can make sales on autopilot, basically. And imagine a world where you had 10 different niches operating at the same time, completely unique to the pain points of that particular niche. The way you speak to plumbers is for plumbers. The way you speak to real estate agents is exactly for them. It's not the same. Imagine you charged $1,000 per month for your service, right? And in all these different niches, you had 10,000 emails going out every month across the different niches with the exact language that that niche needs to hear. Out of that 10,000, remember, they're all completely customized. Completely customized. They're all different. Imagine you booked at 1%. Just 1%. We book at 4, 5, 6%. Imagine 1%. Let's say 80% of them show up. That gives you 80 sales calls. 1% is 100 sales calls. 80% of the calls show up. That's 80 sales calls that you actually sit in front of. Then imagine you have the sales process for that specific niche, but all of them, right? Imagine having that, where when you're speaking to a plumber, you know exactly what to say. The numbers that you present to them are completely different. The way you position the system, completely different to the ones you would do for solar. Solar is more about follow-up, right? Plumbers, it's more about nurture. Gyms, it's more about converting those immediate members. Imagine you could speak to every single one of them the way they have to be spoken to. Then you only close at 20%. That's actually a low number, right? 20%, especially for $1,000 per month. That's a low number. What that results in is 16 clients in a single month and jumping to $16,000 per month rapidly. See how quickly everything can change? But the difference is this, the inputs here, the 10,000. You may think it's 10,000 prospects. It's not. You go into 5, 6, 10 different niches. The lead generation system makes it completely customized to every single prospect, not niche and prospect, completely custom to them. So you have 10,000 prospects in different markets being spoken to exactly how they have to be spoken to every day. And the messaging is completely custom to that individual business. What it's about them. That's a new level, right? That's a completely new level. That's not 10,000 like emails. That's 10,000 completely custom. So of course the 1% is realistic. All you have to do is turn the systems to the different niches. But then you panic about delivery and you think, okay, I've got 10 different niches running. How do I deliver for that? Well, all you do is you turn that niche specific system on. That's it. You just turn it on. You turn the switch on for gyms, plumbers, electricians, solar, everything. You just turn it on. You don't change a thing. Your factory is built. All the machines behind it are built. You just turn on that niche's particular machine. This is what I'm talking about. This is diversification across niches. This is expanding your market with the right solution at the right time. Even if you booked only 0.5%, so we cut that in half, 0.5%. you still hit $8,000 per month in monthly recurring revenue with a very sticky service. And you've hit half of that target. Let's say your close rate, you're not confident, it drops to 10% and you still only book at 0.5. You're still hitting $4,000 per month. And that's completely off the benchmark. That's completely wrong, but you're still at this level. So even if your numbers tanked, your input, the most important word is input, is high enough that it doesn't matter. The margin for error is so much higher, which gives you room to breathe. But the difference is automation. Automation removes customization. Unless you build your system like this, which maintains the customization. What I mean by that is if you typically try to automate something, it becomes bulk, right? It doesn't work very well. You don't get the same results that you're looking for because the personal touch disappears. What we're doing here gives automation, but it also allows you to maintain that customization to that level, which gets you the results. Then it simply comes down to input. But it's hard to show up every day, right? It's hard to, if I say send 10,000, you think, well, that's crazy. It's hard to show up every day. But that's what the automation does for you. You set it up once. So what we're doing here is we're taking the old school way of building extremely lucrative factories and businesses, but turning it to the online space, which then maximizes your profit. We don't have all the staff. We don't have all the equipment, the rent, everything. We don't have any of that stuff. We're taking the old school legacy way of building a machine and bringing the new technology to it and operating like that. 1 second here. That's how we work. Building this factory alone would take you years, but you're here. You don't have to wait years. You don't have to wait months or even days. This is the automation portfolio. And now, I don't want to leave you on a cliffhanger for today, but I need your max focus for this. I need you fresh for the next step and what we're diving into, and I need you to be sharp. So, tomorrow, day 2 of this workshop, we're going to be diving into something called the Systems Vault. And I can promise you, you've never seen anything like what I'm about to show you. This is going to be the behind the scenes of the system behind the system, the layer that nobody ever talks about. This automation engine quietly prints revenue while everybody else is still trying to guess. And I'm going to be taking you into the engine room. I'm going to pull back the curtain and give you insight that you've never ever seen before. I'll show you how your factory operates, your systems, your diversification layers, and the scale of the opportunity you have right now at your fingertips, ready to tap into this demand. This is your moat, or as I like to call it, your lagoon, that keeps every competitor running on the hamster wheel while you run a machine. The factory, think about the factory all the time. Imagine you do whatever you want and the machine just runs in the background. If you see the opportunity I'm talking about here, and this lands and you understand what I'm saying, and you see, okay, I can see the gap, I can see what they're trying to do here, I can see we're taking the old school legacy style businesses and bringing that new technology to them, will make a massive difference, and how we can operate like these $200 million businesses without all the staff, without HR, without all that stuff that just drives you crazy. If you can see what we're talking about, you cannot miss tomorrow's session. It's going to change everything. And I'm going to open the door to a completely different world that separates those who grow and those who get stuck. Now, I'm going to be on our live Q&A session today. It's 5 p.m. in UK, so 12 p.m. in about 40 minutes. If there are questions that you wanted to ask about these systems, these processes, or anything at all, you can hop on. I'll be live. We can go back and forth. But tomorrow is where we're going to be diving into day 2, where we're going to look at how to build the automation engine setup step by step, creating niche specific systems to go into multiple dozens of niches that scale across markets, which opens the floodgates for you, and how to turn one-time setup into perpetual recurring income. And that's going to be live 10 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow, 3 p.m. UK time. Like I say, I do know that it is Thanksgiving, so I will keep the recording up a little bit longer tomorrow, just in case you're having dinner or you're spending time with family or whatever the scenario is. If you can squeeze a bit of time to watch the recording to keep up with the 3-day workshop, to be ready for day 3, you'll be in a good position. But that's what we're going to be diving into tomorrow. And on that note, I'm going to wrap up this workshop for the day. Hopefully you see what I'm talking about. Hopefully you see the opportunity at your fingertips. And if there are any questions right now, I can take them. But if not, I will see you on our session in 40 minutes, where you can ask me about whatever you need, from your business to this to anything that you need. I will be there as ever, every single week, just like normal. So that wraps us up for the workshop for today. Thank you for coming, everybody. Are there any questions? When will the replay be posted? It'll be posted probably about, I'm going to post it in the WhatsApp group. Probably takes about half an hour to come through on Google, actually, so in about half an hour. But it'll be on the Facebook group and via email after about 1 p.m., 2 p.m. Eastern time. So that's when it will be up for you. Are there any other questions that you wanted to cover? If not, it is all good. And like I say, I'll be on the live session in 40 minutes. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate that. He says I'm much smarter than the average person. Yeah, I'll be on the live session in about 40 minutes. If you have any questions, or if you wanted to share your screen with what you're working on, or just get advice in general for your business, I will be there. If not, I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. I'll be posting the link again, just as a refresher. Thanks, Tom. Just as a refresher. And we'll dive into it in depth tomorrow, and I'll see you all in there. See you, everybody. See you. You're welcome.